Hello and welcome to Crossview Radio, weekly podcast for Wayne County. I'm John Marino, pastor of Crossview Church in Orrville. We exist to glorify God by exalting Christ and magnifying the gospel for the joy of all nations. Well, as many of you know, I recently went to an Answers in Genesis conference for pastors, and I'm excited today to have actually a guest from Answers in Genesis, Creation Museum, Ark Encounter, to be talking a little bit kind of about the museum down there and some things that I think will be helpful and encouraging to all of you guys. But I've got Patrick Kanewske with me today, and he is the Director of Ministry and Media Relations at Answers in Genesis. And so, Patrick, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, John. Good to be with you.
Yeah, encouraging to have you. And as I was just mentioning, and we were talking a little bit a few minutes ago, every time that I've been down to the Creation Museum, the Ark Encounter, I've just walked away just tremendously encouraged. We use Answers in Genesis material for our Vacation Bible School, and I'm always pointing people to the resources that you guys have available on your website. So thank you for doing everything that you guys do and in the role that you play there.
Sure, it's really awesome ministry, and I'm just I'm just blessed to be part of it. It's amazing.
It's one of the things that actually I think is a little bit unique, at least for what I'm used to, is everything that you guys do is so professionally done, and I'm just constantly blown away. Nothing's cheap or chintzy. Everything from the Ark, the Creation Museum, the website, the articles available, Answers magazine, the Vacation Bible School material. It's all just top notch, high quality, and I think that's a good testimony. I think, particularly as you guys are ministering, not only encouraging Christians, but hopefully having opportunities to share the gospel with unbelievers as well. So.
Oh, for sure. Well, just talking about the two attractions, we're quite frankly in competition for people. Where are they going to go on vacation?
Sure.
What do they want to spend their money on? It's I don't want to trivialize it too much, but really, if the place isn't quality, if you don't have quality exhibits and a quality message, then the word will get out. Yeah. And nobody will come and visit. So you have to be that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was there, for this pastors conference, and again, just commending, you guys for the quality job that was done there. But one of the things that I've always
What'd you think of that meal that you went through?
Well, I have to confess to you, I did not go to the meal.
Oh,
it wasn't.
You missed it.
I wanted to go. So what we did actually was I brought my family, my wife and 3 kids down with us. Right. And so it was kind of a little competition between, do I go to that meal or do I take my family out and spend some time with them? So the family kind of trumped that. But I did. I really wanted to go to meet some of the speakers and kind of walk through.
Right.
So,
well, just to let your listeners know what happened was we had 800 people for dinner, and it was the second night or so of the conference. I don't know. I can't remember which night of the conference it was, but we had this progressive dinner that went through the museum itself in Petersburg, Kentucky, and it was, man, we got rave reviews on that thing. It was really awesome.
Now I feel like I missed out. So
yeah, you have to do it next time.
I do plan on going, hopefully, Lord willing, to the conference next year. But that's going to be at the Ark next year, right? Instead of the Creation Museum?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Next year's is in October at the Ark Encounter at our new Answers Center. We're really excited about that place. That's a 2,500 seat auditorium with a full basement, and it's going to explode our capability down there. And now that particular, I'm going to go to the whole thing because this is going to be really groundbreaking stuff that we're doing. We're going to talk about races, the one race, one blood, and it's just going to be, it's going to be awesome.
Maybe just give, since we're talking about that right now, give a little plug for that because, the unique thing, the true thing about Christianity is the fact that we are one race, and that, as you guys have continually just put out in your materials, that combats racism right there, because we haven't evolved from different. So is that kind of going to be what it's about primarily there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We Ken really plays that up as we are the human race. Yeah. There's one race, and we have different shades of, everybody has different shades of brown in their skin, right? Melanin. And we're not white. We, people say that we're white. I'm Caucasian, but I'm not white. If I was white, you better call the paramedics and have, get a hold of 911 and have somebody come and rescue me, because, I'm a shade of brown. It's very light brown, but again, everybody has that melanin in their skin, and it's darker depending on, either your background or where you live, or, just what's going on with you in your people group. And now, there's obviously people groups, different looks all over the world, as there are with the animal kingdom itself. There's different looks for different places depending on what the animal is.
Yeah. And contrast that with, evolution, which, really was probably not so much now, but was particularly at one time the biological justification, for racism, because, you come from different groups of people, and you're evolved at different rates and all these kinds of things. But
we do play that up. We actually play that up a bit in our Tower of Babel exhibit down at the Ark Encounter.
Okay.
And that's right. I mean, it's the evolution it really does play to the racism card. So we try to trump that.
One of the things that I've been just always encouraged with as I go through the museum and your materials is you can't walk away without saying, and even this issue of race that we're talking about here, you can't walk away from it without questioning, well, what's authoritative for Answers in Genesis? I mean, you unashamedly stand on the authority of the Word of God, and that really, I think, defines the entire ministry. The Ark, the Creation Museum, it is all just saturated through and through with Scripture. Can you maybe just explain a little bit of your thinking on that, and how that kind of plays out into why you do what you do?
Well, you just can't equivocate on the Word. If you say that you're a Bible believing organization, and we say that in our mission statement, we stand on the authority of God. That's our reason for being here. Yeah. Then you can't equivocate. You have to take it from the very first verse and take it on through. Yeah. Otherwise, you're trying to justify, well, I said this because I didn't really believe that part, but this part I do believe. And you're always trying to explain yourself. So just take it literally from the first verse, first word. In the beginning, God. Yeah. And that's, from there, it just skyrockets from there.
That was one of the things, actually, at the Pastors Conference. John MacArthur was one of the speakers there. And I think he was asked a question, how is it that, the Master's Seminary, how is it that this ministry has stayed so true to the Word for so long? And it was interesting, his answer. His answer was because of the stand that's been taken in Genesis 1-3. And I think, and that defines Answers in Genesis as well. And I think that's, the moment that you open that up for doubt, you begin, opening up the entire Scripture for doubt. And did God really say? Is Jesus really the only way of salvation? And you begin to really erode the Word of God. So I'm grateful.
That's a really good point, John, because we consider Genesis as the foundation for the Bible. Yeah. Obviously, it's the first book, but it's also referred to throughout the Bible, and you can't discount it. Some pastors that are out these days will say, hey, Christians, you don't need to worry about the Old Testament. Yeah. That's old stuff, and we're not under that kind of law anymore, and blah, blah, blah. But that can't be any further from the truth. The Genesis is the foundation, and actually some of our graphics that Ken talks about in his talks display it that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that as your foundation, then the whole thing crumbles.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually right now preaching through the Gospel of Mark, and Lord willing, next year I'd like to start preaching through Genesis, which I've not done before. So, looking forward to really spending some good time, particularly in the first 3 and really first 11 chapters of Genesis, to set that foundation for what's authoritative. Now, on the other hand, some people, I think, and I've heard talked about, some people will say, well, you're so Bible saturated, there's no science, or the science is not real there. Anyone who actually takes the time to go through both of those exhibits, the Ark or the Creation Museum, would have to walk away realizing that's not the case. I mean, you're saturated with Bible as the authority, but there's science everywhere that you go.
Right. And we have some really awesome folks on our staff here too. Some PhDs from all over the world, actually. Paleontologists, biologists, microbiologists, just these expert cosmologists. So we consider the stars and what they mean to creation, and it's just we are so blessed to have these awesome Christian leaders and experts in their field. And the way they present it, the science is all over it. I mean, the Bible confirms science. If you read it and you take it, if you just consider the way the 6 days of creation, it explains everything. If you just consider the animals that God brought onto the ark, it's all laced with science, and it's just again, science, or the Bible confirms science.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, even again, going back to Genesis 1 to 11, there are so many truths in those chapters that explains this is why the world is the way it is today. I mean, and I've, and Ken Ham, of course, has gone through a list of things in Genesis 1 to 11, but just I think of, off the top of my head, I mean, why do we wear clothing? Well, that's given to us in that passage. Why is it that there's death and suffering and sin in the world? Well, that's in Genesis 1 through 11. Why is it that we have a 7-day
what is marriage?
week? Yeah, what is marriage? Genesis 1 to 11. That's being attacked today and attempted to be redefined. So why is it that we have marriage, and why is it the way that it is, one man, one woman for life? That kind of thing. Well, it's given to us right there.
Right. Exactly.
Our 7-day work week, that's nothing, in astronomy that gives us that. It's or 7-day week. But why is it? That's Genesis 1 to 11. And again, when we talked about race a minute ago, or probably more accurate, ethnicities. That's the spreading of people at the Tower of Babel and the language groups, and so it just, to your point, science, in the Bible are not at odds with one another.
Right.
They go along with one another. So, and that's always encouraging to see that play.
And
we
have out. We have a lot of really world-class, museum quality exhibits at both attractions that really play that up. I mean, we have a flood geology exhibit down at the Ark. Were you able to get to the Ark?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, good. That's good.
Yeah.
And then the flood geology, I mean, it talks about, and I based on archaeological finds and the writings and what it says in the Bible, what did the earth look like before the flood? What did the flood do to the earth?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we're still recovering from the flood.
Yeah.
When you really examine the evidence.
Yeah, and when you look at it from that worldview, obviously we're biased. Everyone is biased. I mean, they look at it through the lens of whether it's secular humanism or evolution or whatever. That kind of gives the criteria for how they're going to interpret the evidence according to their perspective. But you look at it through a lens of the flood, and everything makes sense. The fossils and the all the layers, and I mean all this stuff. It just fits together with
the scientific community is more and more thinking that Just take the Grand Canyon, for instance.
Yeah.
The Grand Canyon, they're thinking more and more that more and more scientists are aligning with that it wasn't a little bit of water over a long period of time that carved out the Grand Canyon. It was a lot of water over a short period of time. And then you can contrast that to what happened with Mount St. Helen.
Yeah.
In weeks there was canyons carved out and the landscape was changed dramatically from that one event.
Yeah. Yeah. And that it's interesting to your point there that secular scientists slowly are starting to come to more and more conclusions that, theologians have said for years. There's one book where the author says something. He says, actually, I think about the quote here. He says, for the scientist who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He's about to conquer the highest peak. As he pulls himself over the final rock, he's greeted by a band of theologians who have been there for centuries. and
that's pretty good.
When you say that, when you say, they're starting to say, well, maybe this was a flood or something, a short period of time instead of millions of years, I can't help but think of a quote like that where it's like, the Bible has been saying this. The Bible is authoritative, and more secular scientists are coming to biblical conclusions. They need to stop stealing from our worldview, and it just confirms, I think, the authority of the Word and the trust that we can have in it. So,
exactly.
Tell me a little bit about kind of what are you guys trying to accomplish? What's the purpose? The Creation Museum, the Ark Encounter. Why? I mean, I assume people are kind of surmising from our conversation why they're important, but just maybe clearly, why is it necessary to have these things in today's world?
Well, Ken Ham's vision started way back when he was still in Australia. He was a science teacher back there, and he said, there's really not a place for children to go, young people to go and check out a museum that tells the truth. And he would go around and take his classes to different places, and just wasn't fulfilling. He came to the United States in the mid-'80s with his family and went to the Institute for Creation Research around the San Diego area, and still wasn't satisfied. Linked up with a couple of other fellows, and they came to Northern Kentucky because it's a centrally located, to all the population centers within a day's drive. So he said, we're going to set up shop here. And then the vision was still to have a Creation Museum. And that came into being and the Creation Museum opened in 2007. And then they started to think, well, what is the most iconic thing we might be able to expand to that would show that, God's authority is real. It's true. If we were to build a life-size ark, the ark with the biblical dimensions, that would show people that, hey, this is possible. It's not a fairy tale. It is a true biblical account. It's history. So that's the reason for the Ark Encounter, and the ark, the iconic ark down there as the centerpiece for the Ark Encounter.
With that being kind of the thinking behind, the Ark, the Creation Museum, what is it that you're hoping that people are going to walk away from both of these places? I mean, and maybe you could even say, what do you want the Christian to walk away with? What do you want the unbeliever or the evolutionist to walk away with?
Well, first of all, with a Christian, just an affirmation that, the Bible is real. It's true through these two attractions, and that their faith can be confirmed and just that they're on the right track, because we do profess the gospel at both places.
Yes.
And we try to do that also in a way that can reach the young people. Ken's real passion is for the young folks, because we're losing so many these days because they're just whatever they're taught is just whitewashes any anything that they might get in church.
Yep.
So we're not the church to, just to say that up front, we're not the church, but we do aid the church through these two attractions. So it's just, first of all, it's we stand on the biblical authority, and then we are presenting the gospel. So that helps the Christian. For the non-Christian, it's really, lots of folks come, they're just curious, like, why did you build this thing? And what does it really look like? And there's a couple wow moments there, especially when they round the bend in the bus coming up from the parking lot.
Sure.
Everybody's touched by this thing. And I've seen people just, they come to tears actually by just the enormity of the place and just the message that we present.
Wow. Yeah. And just from my own perspective, I'm a millennial, and I went to public school. And I actually remember the first time there was another student that I went to school with who was a professing Christian, and she gave me a copy of one of the Answers book, and it was my first introduction to Answers in Genesis ministry. But one of the sad things is, since that time she has left the faith. I don't know how much she read that or was into that, but I just see. I grew up in being a Christian and not believing in evolution, hearing that constantly in the public school system, and I think it's only gotten worse now. But it's constantly there, and it's constantly telling you. And one of my teachers said, well, I just want you to know that this doesn't mean that we're saying the Bible is not true. When in reality, evolution as a theory. It does say the authority of the Bible is not true. And so I'm seeing my generation in particular, and even the generation below me, is just continuing to walk away again and again and again. And I think, as Answers in Genesis has continually said, I think a large part of that is because of this evolutionary teaching in the public school that says, we figured it all out. We've arrived, and, no need to trust God's word anymore. So
right, exactly. Well, we use the Pew Research statistics, and we kind of lean on those. And we, in a lot of Ken's talks, he'll show a chart where the greatest generation, this many folks regularly attended church, and it just keeps going down, down and down and down and down as you get through the baby boomers and the millennials and the Generation X and all that kind of stuff. So we're on this slippery slope, and it's we're sliding fast. Yeah,
which makes, to the point earlier, it makes I think the Creation Museum and the Ark all the more important to have these things. And as you said, and I appreciate what you said a moment ago. I mean, you're not the church. God, Jesus says, that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, and he's working through the church. But it's also helpful to have, I think, organizations like you guys helping to equip and educate and things like that. What kind of responses? We're talking about people, as we go down in the generations, more and more people are leaving the church. But as far as the Ark Creation Museum, what kind of responses are you getting from people there? In particular, Ken shares a story of, I think, some number of years ago, some atheists that had kind of a mock communion outside the Creation Museum. So, I mean, obviously you're getting negative responses like that, but you're also getting positive responses. You share, as you've said, I mean, and this is something that I rejoice in, the gospel is presented clearly in both locations. And so people are constantly being exposed to that. What kind of responses are you getting because of the truth there and the gospel and all those things?
Well, I'll just give you an example. The other day I was talking, and I like to go around to both attractions and just kind of inject myself in people's conversations and say, hey, how are you? Where are you from? And what do you think of this place? Do you have any questions about what you're looking at? And this two ladies, they're from South Texas, way down in South Texas, Corpus Christi, and they are on this, I don't know how many day journey around the United States, checking out faith-based attractions and things to look at. And they were doing the Ark Encounter when I met them. And the one lady was just in tears. She was like, I cannot believe this is here. I cannot believe I'm standing on the life-size Ark. So she was touched. Conversely, I've had folks come up to me angry and say, I didn't think this was going to be like this at all. I can't believe that you're cramming this down my throat, and on and on and on. So, but I would say that the negative comments and the negative attitudes are way down there. The positive far outweigh the negative. Yeah. So we're not, buckling under the negative press and things like that. We're doing fine.
And I mean, every time I follow you guys on social media and stuff like that, I mean, it just seems like you're constantly just full of people all the time. I mean, you guys recently added that parking lot at the Creation Museum, and I think that was partly because the Ark is now, both places are growing.
It's exploded the guest population at the Creation Museum. The Ark Encounter in its first 2 years, we opened again in July of 16. By July of 18, we had over 2 million people that had come to the Ark Encounter. Great. And so what that's done, it's just exploded the population. At the Creation Museum last year was their biggest year since they opened. The first year was right around 400,000. The first year in 2007. Last year it was nearly 500,000. And we get bus tours from all over the United States, youth groups, church groups, school groups, people come in here for all kinds of different things, reunions, birthdays. This one guy I was talking to one day down at the Ark, I said, well, hey, sir, how's it going? You guys look like you really like each other. He's walking around with this lady. And he says, yeah, I just proposed to her this morning. And she said, yes, at the Ark. So there's all kinds of different reasons why people come here.
That'll be a memorable one for them. So
That's right.
Oh, yes. I mean, but for me, it's like until you go there, you see pictures and stuff, but you don't realize, especially the Ark, how big it is, and how just the massive size of the whole facility. Maybe tell me a little bit about. I kind of hear things here and there about plans of expansion. You guys really built the Ark, opened it up right away with the plans to kind of grow some things. Can you talk maybe about what things? Actually, maybe share. Some people may have been there right when it opened up, and haven't seen things that have been opened up recently. Can you share what has happened since you guys opened the Ark, and then maybe what's going on in the future as well?
Sure. Well, since we opened, actually the bow and the stern on decks 2 and 3, the bow and the stern, they weren't complete. So it's all complete. All the exhibits are in the Ark. They've been there for at least a year or so. Okay. So the Ark is complete. On either side of the lake that's out in front of the Ark, there is a market village. There is also a monument village, or village market. I can't remember what it's called on the west side. On the east side is the monument village. And the monument village is really an education park where you go through, and there's 6 monuments that are the major biblical accounts of what's going on before the flood. So it really orients the guest on what's going on as you're entering the Ark. In back of the Ark, we've installed on your way out to the zoo is a rainbow garden. And then we're also expanding the zoo. We're doubling the size of the zoo right now. Phase 1 of that is already complete, and that'll be open by the summer of 2019, the full thing. It'll be a place where you can walk through. We're calling it a walkabout. Where you can walk through some pens where the animals are actually in there with you. So you just kind of walk through with kangaroos and stuff like that. So that's good. And then we're also in the process of building a 2,500 seat auditorium, the Answer Center, with a full basement. Again, I think I talked about this before. That's going to explode our capability down there to do conferences and movies and have speakers and
sure.
All kinds of things. So that's going to be great.
Yeah.
That is going to open around the first of the year. The grand opening for that is going to be over the Easter weekend.
Okay.
Right around the 19th of April.
Okay.
And then beyond that, there are plans to build a Noah's Walled City, Tower of Babel. We're not really sure what's going to go first, but there's lots of plans to keep expanding.
Sure. That's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those things continue to grow.
And again, not just so we can grow and say, hey, look how big we are, but it's to present the gospel to show that, again, our stance is that on biblical authority. So we're presenting the biblical accounts as they actually were in the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys, I think, so not only we talked about the Answers for Pastors conference there but I think you're having the Answers for Women conference. Is that
right?
That's
right
as well?
Before that. Okay. That's the first week of April.
Okay.
That's probably the first big thing we're going to have down there at the Answer Center is the women's conference.
Okay.
The first week of April, and then right after that, right after that in April is the actually Answers for Atheists is the first thing. That's going to be our groundbreaking, not the groundbreaking, but the big show that's going to put that place on the map. And then from there, we have concerts that are scheduled, so we won't have to worry about the weather and all that. This will all be indoor venues, which is good. Yeah,
I'm curious. Actually, I had not heard of the Answers for Atheists. Did you have that before, or is this the first time?
We haven't had that before.
Okay.
It's kind of an answer to the atheists are having their national convention in Cincinnati.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Around the same time. Gotcha. And I think they wanted to do that. I think their websites are saying that they're having it around this area because of the Ark and the Creation Museum. So we're kind of countering that. We don't shy away from things. So we want to have a Christian answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Do you, just out of curiosity, do you expect that to be a good number of atheists there, or is it more of just equipping Christians to talk to atheists?
Oh yeah, it's a Christian thing. I don't know. I can't imagine. The atheists are welcome to attend, obviously, but it's Answers for Atheists is how to equip Christians. Yeah,
sure. Tell me a little bit about just, someone maybe listening to this has never been to the Ark Creation Museum. What do they need to expect? How should they prepare? Do they need to have, is it half a day each? Is it a whole day each? How do they kind of plan their day and their trip for that?
Well, first of all, make sure you have good shoes because there's a lot of walking. And prepare to do a lot of reading. Yeah. We have, obviously we have a lot of signs on the wall, posters on the wall that explain our different exhibits and all that. So there is a good amount of reading. If you buy a ticket to the museum, it's actually good for 2 days. Mm-hmm. It's a 2-day ticket. And then the ticket at the Ark is for a day. I don't recommend trying to do both in one day. It's just too much. They're separated by about 45 miles. Mm-hmm. The Creation Museum's up by the Cincinnati Airport, which is in northern Kentucky.
Okay.
The Creation Museum's in Petersburg, Kentucky, and then the Ark is a drive down 75 south to Williamstown, Kentucky. Okay. Again, that's about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about, time to visit? Is there a certain, time of year, day of the week, whatever? Is there a good time to visit in particular, or kind of any time?
I would say anytime. Our biggest days are Saturdays.
Okay.
Especially in the summertime. We are offering that starting the day after Thanksgiving. I'm not sure when you're going to air this, but starting the day after Thanksgiving, there's several free things to come to see at both attractions. You can park for a small fee, and then you can come in and see all the lights, and then you don't have to. If you want to have dinner or something like that, or buy some gifts for Christmas, that's fine. You don't actually have to go into the attractions themselves, but there is obviously an additional fee if you're going to go onto the Ark.
Sure.
One thing that's kind of neat down at the Ark after 5 o'clock, and again, this runs from the day after Thanksgiving through December to December 30th.
Okay.
If you come to the Ark after 5 o'clock, you can pay a reduced price to go on the Ark, but it includes dinner.
Oh, okay.
So for around $33,
Okay.
I think it's $32.99, something like that. You can
Great.
visit the Ark, and then it includes a full meal, full dinner.
Cool. Good.
Which would be something neat.
Yeah.
We're offering also to our Grant County friends, the Ark Encounters in Grant County,
Okay.
down there in Williamstown. They have free parking now till the end of the year.
Okay.
Free parking, so they can come in and check out the lights. They can go eat.
Sure.
They can go. We have a glice rink down there. I don't know if I mentioned that before. It's not ice. It's a polymer surface. It's like skating, but when you fall, you don't get wet.
I saw some pictures of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. You can see that on our website.
Yeah.
But again, the glice rink is like $5 to do that, which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And so our Grant County friends can come free of charge. They can come onto the grounds and check it out. They can get something to eat. They can do some shopping. But again, if they're going to go on the Ark itself, there's an additional fee for that.
Sure. What kind of, from your perspective, someone comes to visit, any kind of additional tips, thoughts, suggestions, making the trip a little bit more enjoyable, easier, whatever. What kind of things would you suggest? Maybe things that if you're kind of just rushing through, you wouldn't see and you should see, kind of thing. What do you have to suggest in that area?
Yeah, well, first of all, they really do need to make sure they carve out enough time.
Sure.
So many people come to both attractions, and I'll talk to them. They'll get there like mid-afternoon at the Ark, and they're like, "Oh, I had no idea. There's not enough time. You're closing at 6. Blah blah blah." Yeah. I'm like, well, I'd like to help you out for the next day. Maybe give you a reduced price for the next day. Oh,
Sure.
no, we're on the road. We have to go here and there. So make sure you carve out enough time for at least a day at both locations.
Yeah.
At least a day at both locations. And then come with an open mind and come prepared to get both sides of the story. That's one of the things that we really play up also is that you're going to get the worldview.
Yeah.
You're going to get the biblical view, and you decide. We're not going to cram it down your throat. Although the creationist view is very compelling, the biblical view is very compelling. So come with an open mind and prepare to be blessed.
Yeah, that's to that point. You do. I mean, you go to a secular museum and you don't see evolution, creation. Here you'll see here's what the evolutionary worldview is and says, here's what the biblical worldview is and says, and it's just neat to see how you guys do that. So
we present man's view and God's view, and again, it's kind of like Fox News. You report, we decide. Or no, we report, you decide. I got it wrong. We report, you decide.
Sure.
So, it's up to you to make that decision. What are you going to believe in based on the evidence?
Sure. So good. Good. Well, any other last words, last thoughts to share with people here?
Well, I think it's awesome that you're kind of featuring us on your show today.
Yeah, glad to.
We see people from all over the world coming through here, and obviously our locals, which you guys are pretty local. We don't see enough of you, so welcome. You guys are welcome to come on down and check us out.
Well, we'll have to do. Actually, when it first opened up, when the Ark first opened up, we just told our church, look, we're going down there. I think it was probably October of 2016, the first time that we went, November. And we said, hey, anyone from the church that wants to go, we're just going to go down together. And so we'll probably have to do that again sometime where we, I mean, people can go anytime, obviously, but open up to the church and say, hey, let's just go down together and spend some time together. So hopefully
That'd be great.
we'll do that again. So, but
Well, look me up when you come down.
All right. Sounds good. I will do that. Patrick, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. Really appreciate it, and your insight, and just, again, want to just say thank you so much for what you guys do to uphold the authority of the Word down there.
Thank you, John. It's good talking to you.
Yes. Thanks for listening to Crossview Radio. I'm John Marino, pastor of Crossview Church in Orville. We meet Sundays at 10 a.m. at the Orville YMCA. To find out more about Crossview Church, visit us online at crossvieworville.com. And find out more about Answers in Genesis, go to answersingenesis.org. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, answersingenesis.org. Thanks for listening.